Good morning. I'm Myron Brilliant, the Executive Vice President, Head of International Affairs here at the U.S. Chamber. It's sunny in Washington, D.C., bringing some sunshine, hopefully, to day two of our global forum. We're so pleased that yesterday's robust attendance with over 120 countries represented, and we're looking forward to another day of dynamic programming. Thank you for joining us. Let me just say at the outset today, let me acknowledge Marjorie Chorlins and Scott Eisner from the international team, Sylvia Hall, along with the entire AV and events communications and the entire international division for working so hard to put together this great event today. The Global Forum is really a true whole of chamber undertaking, as Suzanne Clark often says. Yesterday, we really covered a lot of ground, and I hope all of you were able to join us for that session. Highlight a few points here today. Clearly, our world is very interconnected. Some have speculated that globalization is dead because countries are looking inward to strengthen their resiliency to global shocks. But globalization is not dead. Let me just underscore that. It is not dead. It is evolving, it's changing, it's reflecting the times we're in. People, communities, and economies continue to integrate and become intertwined in ways that bring immense benefits. On the flip side, however, there's also means that what happens in one place can profoundly affect countries and companies globally. We've always known this, but we're feeling this heavily with today's tsunami of global challenges. For instance, clearly, Russia's invasion of Ukraine has brought massive unforeseen consequences on the energy, food, and frankly, metals supply chains. This disruption to Ukraine's wheat production is already having huge ramifications around the world, and we will likely start to see an even more devastating outcome as millions of people are struggling to feed their families amidst supply chain challenges. On the energy side, how and when European countries decide to wean themselves off Russian oil and gas will impact energy markets for decades to come. And as we work to address COVID-19, new pandemic challenges continue to pop up, like the lockdowns in Shanghai and other Chinese cities that are exacerbating supply chain disruptions and increasing commodity prices. There is no doubt that we're facing a daunting set of obstacles. But as Ian Bremmer said yesterday, crisis gives us an opportunity to pursue change. It certainly does. There are three significant opportunities for the business community I'd like to briefly touch on today. First, the importance of the United States becoming a leader again on trade. The American economy, 40 million American jobs depend on trade. And as Cargill CEO Dave McClellan underscored yesterday, with a looming food crisis, it's more important than ever before to remove trade barriers. Protectionism will only further stress the global agricultural supply chain. The administration's announcement that the U.S. will lift tariffs on Ukrainian steel is a small step, but we can do much more together. For starters, suspending all tariffs on imports from Ukraine would be more impactful and a powerful symbol of support. Even more important is getting off the sidelines and back into the trade game in a robust way. As our President and CEO, Suzanne Clark, noted yesterday, the United States has not entered into a trade agreement with a new partner in a decade, while the rest of the world is moving forward without us. Europe has 46 trade agreements with 78 countries. We heard from Secretary Raimondo about the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, which is positive progress towards re-engaging Asia, and the United States Chamber supports this initiative. But the incentives for some countries to join are unclear. We're still not providing market access. The business community will continue to work with the U.S. government on this framework to help strengthen trade rules, increase certainty and confidence, and facilitate investment. These issues will be a big focus for the Chamber this week as we host heads of state from the ASEAN countries while they're in D.C. for a summit with President Biden. This is an important summit, an important opportunity, important chance for the United States to demonstrate its commitment to the Asia-Pacific region. Second, we have the opportunity to forge a more sustainable, strategic, frankly, pragmatic relationship with China, the world's second largest economy and a critically important market for American businesses, communities, and consumers. There is rising tension between the United States and China as many of the speakers yesterday noted. But we know that these two large economies impact almost every other global relationship. Companies doing business in Latin America, Asia, and Africa are just as impacted by what is happening in Beijing and Shanghai as companies that are heavily invested in China. We have more work to do in the U.S.-China relationship, and we do need to hold China accountable for its unfair trade practices and its market distortions. But we need to also figure out our relationship going forward with that country. And finally, you have the opportunity to create transparent and smart rules of the road when it comes to the digital economy and emerging technologies. Secretary Raimondo mentioned next week's Trade and Technology Council ministerial meeting in Europe. This is a great opportunity for Europe and the United States to work together on some of the looming challenges before us today. We look forward to taking part in this important forum and exploring these themes later this morning. But our ability to seize these opportunities requires us to strengthen our relationships with our allies and countries worldwide that share our views, share our values, and are here to work together. We explored yesterday during the geostrategic risk panels, geopolitical relationships are not simple as they once were. We need to work on them. As we have often discussed yesterday, let's not overlook the significance of the fact that we're clearly in a multipolar world, and many countries are hedging their bets because their strategic interests are diverse and span the globe. No matter how the United States and Europe feels about the egregious, and let me underscore, egregious, unprovoked behavior of Russia towards Ukraine or predatory market practices to China, many countries still don't want to pick sides. This reality requires deft U.S. leadership and some agility, not only from our government, but from the private sector. Business leaders around the world and in this country are adapting to the changing landscape. With our global reach, the U.S. Chamber promises to make a commitment to work closely with our government and all of you who are participating here today in responding to the challenges that are being discussed over these days. Because we recognize the role that the U.S. private sector plays in enhancing America's standing around the world. Today, we're going to get deep into conversations on the digital economy, on the climate and sustainability, and energy security, key issues that we're all thinking about as we look at the global landscape. We'll hear from leaders of two important multilateral institutions. First, Matthias Cormann, who previously served as the finance minister in Australia and is already bringing that experience to bear as head of the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, better known as OECD. And Dr. Ngozi, Director General of the World Trade Organization, who is playing an important role in restoring vitality to the international trade system. And there's a lot of work to be done in that regard. In the course of the summit today, you'll also hear a little bit about the Summit of the Americas that's taking place in June in LA. The Chamber is honored to host the official private sector forum of the summit, which will bring together business leaders from around the United States and across the hemisphere to drive innovative, practical solutions for a brighter future across the Americas. We hope to see you there. Our competitive starts at home, but it reaches to the shores of Latin America and, of course, beyond. Now, let me kick off our second day guest. It's my honor to introduce His Excellency Guillermo Lasso, President of Ecuador. Because of his very distinguished career in the financial service sector, President Lasso was well known to many in the business community even before pursuing public office. He is someone who truly understands the role the private sector plays in creating opportunity and improving lives because he has lived it himself. As a result, he has brought that perspective to the presidential palace and created a pro-business climate in Ecuador. And we're delighted to have President Lasso with us today. President Lasso, over to you.